My name is Jim Fisher, your host for the talk show, Monday through Friday from 9 until noon. And we've got the forecast out of the way, so we'll say we have guests for this coming portion of Talk Radio. They are Samantha Fox and Bobby Astor. They're both XXX movie stars. And, folks, welcome to Talk Radio.
Hey, thank you very much for having us.
It's nice to be here.
I suppose the thing we first ought to get out of the way, what's a sex...
expression.
Yeah, okay. What's a sex film? How do we define what you do as opposed to what Anne Margaret does?
Well, I probably can do most everything Anne Margaret does. I wish I looked like Anne Margaret. Other than that, I perform a sexual act on the screen in front of a camera.
You do the same thing, Bob?
Oh, yes. It's just the... It just gets taken that much further. Well, and you see, you mentioned Anne Margaret as opposed to, let's say, Julie Christie, who has performed raw sex in front of the camera, and who is a legitimate actress, and
or Jane Fonda,
or Angie Dickinson. So I don't know that there's really the distinction is made purely in the in the
editing.
Well, there's a big argument right now. As a matter of fact, a suit going on between two major film stars. The lady says they did not copulate during the taking of the film, and the man says they did, and she's suing him.
Donald Sutherland and Julie.
Yeah, Don Sutherland and Julie Christie.
Right.
Yeah.
So do they have a suit?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a suit pending, but
well, she was threatening him with a suit last week. We used it as a daily kicker on a talk show. She was threatening him with that. So basically, your statement would be then that a lot of this goes on in regular movies.
Oh, I would say certainly does, because what they call simulation, or a likeness to sex, is rather hard to achieve. As a matter of fact, we worked on a SAG picture recently that overextended its budget. You might want to talk about it.
Oh, we're amongst the extras. This was a rather well-paying extra job, or otherwise we wouldn't have taken it. But we're, mercenary to the bargain. But they had regular Screen Actors Guild extras there, and when it became time to simulate, if you will, in quotes, the sexual act, when Samantha and I were working together on that set, and we were simulating, whereas the extras, the so-called legitimate actors and actresses, were involved heavily into some really raw sexuality, which just goes to show you that...
It's just very difficult to pretend you're doing sex, to make it look real, to, evoke the emotions which are necessary in lovemaking, because I don't think of sex as simply a raw act. It isn't an animal tissue need, but it's only reflected that way if the character, the so-called character, has to show himself as being and just simply an animal. If the person has other characteristics, they're sensitive, then perhaps they'll also bring in the love aspect of sex.
Let me get back to lovemaking in just a second. I want to get some basic background here. Bob, let me start first with you. How did you get into XXX movies? What was the route you took to become a porn star?
Well, see, I'm in the business of it's a conscious decision. I mean, it's not, I have alternatives, and so does Samantha, and there are a few other people in the business that are in the business because they wish to be in it. I was a musician for 22 years, a commercial artist, and I had dropped out for a while due to personal reasons, boredom or what have you, or kind of finding myself on a... I don't know, it seemed to be the thing in about early 1970s where people were dropping out, especially in metropolitan areas. Brokers were turning to arts and crafts, engineers were turning to raising tomatoes, that kind of thing. And I kind of dropped out of the music business for a while, and I happened to run into a fellow by the name of Mark Stevens at a party, who was the so-called Mr. 10.5 inches. He was a veteran of the business, the early days, 15 years ago, if you will. And I kind of, when he mentioned what he did for a living, as opposed to what I did for a living, I thought, gee, what a fascinating idea. And part of my personality, I like doing things, surviving or earning a living, if you will, doing what I like to do, as opposed to, breaking rocks, if you will.
Basically, you're in foreign movies because they're easy. You find them pleasant to work in?
Well, yes, because I'm a performer. I mean, I guess my ego needs for attention, etc., whatever is the makeup of the performer. As I say, I was a musician for many, many years, which is performing in front of people. I enjoy the attention.
You get a kick out of seeing yourself on the screen.
There's a certain amount of that. Yes, very definitely. I just went about asking. I asked everybody I came into contact with how I would possibly get into X-rated movies. It was a lark at first, just something to do. Sounded very, sounded like fascinating, fun. I love sex, so therefore, what better if you can be paid to do these things? If one enjoys to draw, if one can become an artist and be paid to do that, that's the ultimate. If one enjoys banging on an oatmeal box and grow up to be a drummer, that's what I did. And the next best thing, I suppose, is to be paid for breathing. Walking around and looking at trees or going to church or what have you.
Samantha, did you get into it for comparable reasons?
I would say, yes, I like doing what I do. I make a very good living doing what I do. Sometimes it's a stress situation, and I have always worked under stress. Well, at least I always perform at my best when I'm under stress.
How many movies have you made?
I have made about 65 features, 35 millimeters, in which I am the lead character.
65 movies?
Yeah, and then I've made over 100 where I do cameo parts or I'm secondary supporting type of character.
So the total would be about 165 films?
Yes.
Did John Wayne do that many?
I don't know.
I think he had about 100, didn't he?
Maybe.
Around there somewhere.
Yeah. Okay, now you're going to bring up the question.
Well, what I'm looking at is the number of movies you've been in. That's an impressive list, that you've done 165 movies.
It's a lot of credits in terms of hours put into the acting profession.
You got Best Actress, 1980 Erotic Film Awards.
1979
And 2 years in a row.
And I was nominated in 1978. Plus, I won a Critics Award in New York Film Critics Award for Best Actress last February.
New York Film Critics.
Yeah, it was great. Magazines like Penthouse, Playboy, Screw, Hustler, they all got together and decided, Eros, of which I'm spokeswoman. I'm spokeswoman of a magazine as well as everything else I do. They decided for the first time to come up with such an award, because they do give them in California in the what's so-called legitimate or union film business, and I got that also. I was really pleased.
Does it bother you to take your clothes off and make love to somebody in front of a movie camera?
Only if I don't particularly feel like it. It's the old syndrome, I have a headache today, dear.
Okay, now that returns, remember I said I was going to come back to lovemaking. Is it lovemaking?
In my case, it's lovemaking. I can't always speak for the person I'm with. I try to create a situation in which my partner or partners, if it's a threesome or a so-called orgy, even in our filmed orgies, they're not really orgies. They kind of couple people off and then call it an orgy. But as far as I go, I would say it's lovemaking. I try to make someone feel good and feel happy about themselves and about being with me and communicating physically.
Bobby, for you, is it lovemaking?
I don't. Well, that's a really nebulous.
Yeah, it is. Love is a very nebulous thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what you're dealing with. What is love making? The communication of body.
Of course,
mind,
now you
and
make
spirit.
movies with this lady, you're liable to get belted if you say the wrong thing.
But I would suppose it's just as variable as it is with any married couple or a couple living together or what have you. In private circumstances, that I think it's variable with one's mood, with one's intentions, what your diet's like, or if you went to the toilet early in the morning. It makes a difference as to how your outlook is for the day and how you feel about what you're doing. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. Mostly, I would admit, I must say, for the most part, there's a great deal of lust as opposed to love that is being expressed, in my case at any rate, and it does seem to be the case. Although there have been times when, in circumstances, when I've performed on screen where there was a great emotional communication.
You two are on-screen lovers, right?
Off-screen.
Off-screen lovers and sometimes on-screen. I have a particular
The movie that you got the Erotic Film Awards actress for, and the one you got Best Supporting Actor for, was that a movie you appeared in together?
Well, we were in the same film, but they were a string of vignettes, which we didn't work together actually. As a matter of fact, I don't think we knew each other at the time when that film was produced.
No, we didn't, and I almost got the part working with you as the young girl, but there was a girl that, of course, looked younger than me, and so she got it.
For most of our audience, I think they most people have not seen a XXX film. Surprising. They tend to be male audiences. I have seen one. We did, when we first started talk radio, I went to all of the sex film shops, the porn shops here in the Quad Cities, and we did a program, it would have been a year and a half ago, a year and 3/4 ago about this. And so I have seen one. Okay? Most people have not. They think that the people who are in hardcore porn are particularly homely people or people who couldn't make it elsewhere.
You should see us.
Samantha is a doll, okay?
Oh.
A good-looking woman, okay? The question I suppose... Okay, I know, you hooked up
Keep
with her.
going, keep going.
The question I suppose that most guys would ask, how come you aren't married to some guy having his babies and home being a housewife? You're a pretty
Are you
woman.
asking?
I'm already married. I can't ask. I'll get killed.
Oh, sorry, wife. I was married. Right before I got into this business, I was married. And I was married to a guy that I really, really adored, and I was trying to be an honest, good housewife, a Stepford wife, if you will. I cooked and cleaned, and nothing brought me more joy than that. He started not coming home. He was a crazy doctor, a lunatic, and he just started having long office hours and they trailed off into the night, and my beautiful candlelight dinners were just melted and stale and burnt. And so I started exploring other avenues of interest because I had been a businesswoman formerly. I was a writer, and I was also a associate producer, production manager for a while for a TV commercial production house. And I wanted to get back into that, but I really didn't know how to quite get into that. So I did something that I found easy, which was modeling. I was really thin at the time, so I could be a model. Then somebody discovered me. I was walking around town with my portfolio, and somebody asked me if I wanted to get to be the lead in a film. And then he mentioned it was the next film. And I said, well, I think I better go home and ask my husband, who said, are you going to make money? And I said, yes. And he said, go ahead, do it. Fine. Well, soon after the marriage dissipated, it ended up, and I went into this world. I became a businesswoman as opposed to a married woman.
Now, when we say business, I mentioned, an hour ago we were talking about your upcoming appearance. The pornography business, per se, is an extremely lucrative business. Up around GM and national rankings, General Motors, it makes a ton of money.
It was written up, I think, as a viable investment.
Yes. Great investment
in Forbes
vehicle.
magazine, I think 2 summers ago. I remember there was a big article in it. And which brings me back, you mentioned in passing that it's a mostly male-oriented audience, or a male-oriented business, and there's a mostly male audience, which is rapidly changing.
Oh, I know.
It's rapidly changing, and the business is rapidly changing. It is no longer a closet business. It's no longer some fealty pictures, if you will, in somebody's basement. It's they're out and out full-fledged productions. They spend, well, hey, compared to Hollywood, hey, they're not spending $20 million, but they're they used to make these movies on a shoestring on $10,000, $20,000. They're spending $250,000, $500,000 on some of these films.
Are you guys making more money as you go along in this?
There has been an increase in salary since I started 6
Are you
years
wealthy?
ago.
I asked you that before we came into this. Are you comfortable?
I'm certainly comfortable, and I'm able to travel, which I love to do. I'm able to meet a lot of people, which I like to do. I guess I feel very fortunate. Sometimes I feel spoiled, and I have to just get hold of those reins and say, now come on, this people are, I cry, I watch TV, and I see people starving, and I just smack myself in the face, and I say, get a hold of yourself. You've really got it good. And then I kind of reevaluate myself and say, everything's fine. Just learn to invest better and make better deals. Because I'm not getting any younger. I'm probably one of the older gals in the business that is functioning consistently